to episode 83 of the LOTD pod, the Left of the Dial podcast. I'm Flick, and the Time Worm by my partner Richard Shirk brings us into another episode. How you doing, Richard?
I'm good, Sean. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right.
Okay. Just all right. We can talk about it on the podcast if you want.
As Kenny Loggins once said, I'm all right. Nobody worry about me.
There you have it, folks. Yes, and thank you for playing The Time Worm, one of 14 singles from my latest album, which is called With Clairvoyance, which is available somewhere on the internet. Everywhere on the internet, in fact.
And they're all going to be released as import singles,
Totally.
I assume, with hard to find B-sides and rarities.
And those kind of annoying, like super thin jewel cases. You could never find on your shelf back in the day.
Yeah, on the import single of The Time Worm, are there like any covers that you do that will be available on like the Japanese import of that single?
Any covers that? Yes, there are definitely a really spacey, weird, loud cover of "Shoot Out the Lights" by Richard Thompson.
Oh, okay, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
And I would expect that there's going to be an ABBA cover on one of the singles.
Oh yeah, of course. You have to represent your roots.
Yeah, you and Juliana Hatfield. I want to hear some ABBA covers from.
Yeah, I'll give her a call. So see what we could
do. Still holding out on that one. Still holding out on the Juliana Hatfield ABBA covers album.
Yeah, man. The possibilities in the universe are infinite.
It's true. All right. Well, it is a pretty exciting episode we have tonight. Today, whenever you're listening to it, it could be today, tomorrow, or yesterday. We finally are getting around to a Radiohead episode. It's really the first time we've dealt with Radiohead much on the show. Definitely has its own subject. We have yet to do Radiohead, so it's high time. I say
high time, yeah.
And we're going to be doing a deep dive. So we're not going to be discussing, the songs that you probably already know. We're going to be discussing the songs that maybe you know, and hopefully some that you don't know.
Yeah, I had a great time putting this together because, I'm looking at your list. I'm looking at my list. Oh, and Flick, could you please remind our viewers or asking in the chat channel, where can we find the playlists that correspond with our chat today?
You can go to our Spotify page by searching LOTD pod. You could also search for the playlist by the name. Mine's called RAREDIOHEAD, all one word. Little play on the name, in case you didn't pick up on that. RAREDIOHEAD. And Richard's is called Yes I Am Rare Radiohead,
which pales in comparison to your punning.
Well, mine's more economical. You called yours Rare Radiohead. I just was like, it's Radiohead.
Yeah, fewer syllables. Who has the time?
I like to be efficient. I'm a big fan of efficiency.
Yeah, right on. Okay, but yeah, I like the idea for this list because one of the things I kind of miss in this modern digital age is B-sides,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. Maybe I know that there are like Spotify singles and that kind of thing, remixes if you're into that. But yeah, back in the day when bands had to put out records on record labels to get heard, and then put out like a single, you had to put out some B-sides with that, and it was really exciting back in the day.
Yeah, it used to be one of those great record store hunting sort of activities for me. B-sides is a portion of what we're doing. It's not all B-sides, but also B-sides, album tracks, tracks that weren't released as singles but great on the albums, and the rarity here and there. Uh, I enjoyed this because I've not really put a compilation like this together for Radiohead. I've the songs that are on my list are songs that I've put on Radiohead compilations alongside the more well-known Radiohead tracks. And this gave me a chance to just focus on the other stuff. And I I found that I was able to put together a list that sounded like a very like a great Radiohead album, um, even though it's missing any singles or really like landmark Radiohead tracks.
Yeah, I like what you did with that. And I guess my approach was more about, but I was thinking a lot about when I was discovering a lot of these kind of like harder to find tracks. It was during that golden like 18 months when you could use Napster.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I remember finding a lot of these either in as CD singles in Record Collector in Iowa City, Iowa, or on Napster, and then burning them onto a CD.
yeah, I definitely have. Well, I don't want to give away, part of my list, but yeah, one of those was definitely brought back file sharing memories for me.
Yeah, that was a weird time.
Yeah. Do you want to kick it off? Your song list title, I think, gives away, what your opener would be. If you want to
Yeah,
go ahead.
wow. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, I like um I like my playlist because it's chronological, and we start out with a tune that is like compared to what Radiohead became is like a super conventional, fun B-side called "Yes I Am" from the Creep single, and yeah, I guess when I was listening back to my playlist, and yeah, to see the evolution from like the band needing to fill out some singles with some of their maybe leftover tunes from when they were kids to um, Tom York discovering electronic music, and yeah, I think Yes I Am is a good starting place. So you can tell they love the Pixies and like loud American indie music, which I think is really cool too, because sometimes in their approximation of that, they end up kind of sort of sounding like Luna. uh, in the kind of like shimmery guitars, especially.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you said, yours starts or yours goes chronological. Mine is just kind of taking these tracks and making uh, to me like an additional Radiohead album with it. The first track on mine is just kind of what I thought would be a good opener, which is Faust Arp from In Rainbows. Um, In Rainbows is like I don't know. I absolutely love In Rainbows. I could have taken anything really from it. I think Faust Arp is like it's tougher to really know which tracks are the deep tracks because I think the shallow end goes to pretty far into the album. But I think Faust Arp is certainly one that you can classify as a deep cut off of this. It's the number 6 track on In Rainbows, but it's I think it's a really good opener. I think it it's really stripped down song, and really like a lot of the tracks on my list are just very hypnotic, very. serene and sublime. And like, to me, that is really brought about by the strings on this track. I really love that. Really, it's just a good feel to it, and I think it's like an ideal one to kick it off with.
And I'm wondering, did you tune into the Thumbs Down broadcast, which I think was maybe New Year's Day 2007 ish?
No.
Okay, I'm just reminded of the version of Faustarp with just Johnny and Tom, and they're walking on a moor, and they're all like bundled up, and there's wind noise on the microphone and everything. So, yeah, I think if we would have extended this experiment to YouTube, we definitely would have had some great cuts from them. And I think that really, that whole broadcast, which was really scrappy and had a lot of covers in it, like they played Headmaster Ritual and Ceremony and Unravel by Bjork, is kind of the spirit of In Rainbows, which was their first album after splitting with EMI. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I think so, because that was when that was obviously the one that was all digital to begin with.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of the beginning of the pay what you will era.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I think and it came as 2 discs, and I always have trouble remembering which one is the actual record and which one is the collected B-sides, because they both, I think they're both like whatever 10 tracks, and they both hang together really well.
Yeah. Well, the second disc is eight tracks,
Ah,
10 on the first one.
got it. Got it. Yeah, good tunes. I'm gonna skip around a little bit, but um, I think you have more tracks than I picked out. But um, the next one that I want to really talk about is called Coke Babies. Did you ever get into that jam?
I don't recall this one. Well, I mean, I did listen to your list last night, but this isn't one that I had much recollection of.
Yeah, it's a B-side from the Anyone Can Play Guitar single, and I like it a lot because one of the superheroes in the band Radiohead is Johnny Greenwood, who's you know always been doing interesting things. And initially, you just kind of hear him play like a lot of loud guitar. But I think Coke Babies is uh, Anyone Can Play the Guitar is a single from Pablo Honey, their first record. But I think in this song, you can kind of hear what they're going to be up to in the next few records. Like this could be easily a tune on the Bends, or in a slightly weirder treatment, it could end up on OK Computer.
Yeah, and that I don't know what the intention behind the title is, but it's kind of a slap in the face to Johnny Greenwood, really. Anyone can play guitar. But Johnny Greenwood, in addition to all of the interesting things that he does on guitar that you mentioned, includes, and we've discussed this story before, and not sure, exactly what's accurate about it, but on Creep, uh, reportedly because he didn't like the track, um, got the feedback, the clicky feedback sound, uh, the story goes because of sabotage, because of wanting to sabotage the song. But you know, at any rate, whatever brought that about, it's probably, well, it's definitely one of the most interesting things about that track.
It's yeah, it's weird that some guy just going cha-chunk, on his
Yeah.
guitar. It's kind of like the hook, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, like, it bumps it up at least 10%. Like, probably like 40%. Just that little thing. Like, it's brilliant. If it, depending on what the intention behind it is, it's just, it's brilliant. It really drives the whole thing home.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, but the story that I've heard is that the band didn't know that they were rolling tape. They thought it was a rehearsal, and Johnny Greenwood does the cha-chunk thing to check his guitar level. And I like that story too, because it is an overplayed song, I think, for me, even now. But um, it's a cool song if you can step back a minute and maybe try and think about when you first heard it. And for me, the reason why it's so cool is it has some demo magic to it. When you're
Mm.
when you're playing guitar and rocking out, and you're not sweating about like, will this sell a million records? You know according to the story I heard, like, they didn't even know the tape machine was on. So uh that spontaneity is yeah, it's you can just hear it.
Well, yeah, I mean, a thing like that is super interesting, and I think, there's a lot of interest. Like, you could, maybe what the drawback to this song is, I think it comes from hindsight more than anything. Like, it probably is as much responsible as anything for the whole emo movement. Um, which, I guess that depends on what your opinion is on that. But take that out of that context, and I think it's an interesting song. And even if it is kind of an emo type track, just isolate the music, and how interesting is that? Like, they were already doing a lot of interesting things musically.
Yeah, and they also play like a bunch of guys that have known each other since they were kids, which is 100% true. I think this incarnation of Radiohead, which is still playing and recording, has been a solid lineup since I think they were 14 in Oxford when they were called On a Friday. And that name didn't change until right before Pablo Honey comes out. So yeah, you can hear that, they might as well be brothers, and
Yeah.
within the band they're like two sets of brothers. So
And the name on a Friday apparently was because that's when they would rehearse.
that's right.
Yeah. All right. Number two track on my list. Going again for the album tracks. And okay, computer. You can make an argument there aren't really deep cuts on an album like OK Computer. I'm going to make the argument that there are, because a lot of people, I think, um, especially now, especially since, I don't really know since when, but there, a lot of people don't consume albums that way, where they just listen to start to finish. So I'm going to champion the album tracks where I can. And from OK Computer, I went with Electioneering, which, coming out of Faust Arp, uh, Electioneering, like, really ratchets up the energy, um, and the volume level. And definitely, speaking of Johnny Greenwood, definitely a good showcase of his talents here on this track.
Yeah, it's such a rocker.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just like I think coming out of a track like Faust Arp, you really want that grab you by the jugular sort of transition there, which I electioneering definitely gives you.
Yeah, and yeah, it is such a cool tune to have on OK Computer, which you know for some people can be kind of stately and slow. And then you've got like the tune that they would probably close with if they were playing in like a pub and there were 20 drunk people there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, good one. Um, I'm gonna skip around a little bit, but I invite people to maybe dust off their CD single of My Iron Lung, which is just has a bunch of great B-sides on it. I would talk about Permanent Daylight. I think is probably a good Permanent Daylight and The Trickster are both solid tunes from this album. And I think what I like about them is that I kind of imagine that this is the band dusting off some of the tunes they've had for a long time. Um, and they put to tape when they were recording the Bends, and the Bends itself, the follow up to Pablo Honey, which all the record executives thought would tank and be the end of the band and the band's record contract. I think if you know that backstory, you can really hear the effort and the kind of nerves that went into recording that LP.
Yeah, I think the Benz is a really good example of why just because a band's follow-up album doesn't get played on the radio, why that's no reason to just assume that you shouldn't leave them for dead, because they might have the bends going on, and you're not aware of it, because I think that's probably what happened with a lot of the American audience for Radiohead at the time. For me personally, the Benz is where I became a Radiohead fan. I wasn't I didn't really think much of them either way prior to the Benz, but that was like where I knew they were the real deal.
Cool. And what were the circumstances that you found out about the group?
Well, it wasn't that I found out about the group, the Bends. Like I'd heard the Creep. The Creep. I heard Creep before. Like I think my first exposure to Radiohead was either MTV or the radio, hearing Creep. So I was certainly aware of that. But the Bends, I let's see, was My Iron Lung the first single, or what was the first single
Oh
off of
yeah,
the Bends?
I don't know. Good
Well,
question.
anyway, um, I'm sure it would have been 120 minutes, like where I would have
Oh
actually,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that would have been where I would have got exposed to the tracks off of the Bends, and I'm gonna take a look quick to see what the single would have been.
I was a little bit behind the curve on Radiohead, and I was aware of them from Creep, but I think my junior year in high school, maybe I think that was about it. There was a foreign exchange student from France named Amelie, and she liked music, and one of her favorite bands was Radiohead, and so I was kind of following her lead because I guess if you're a teenager in France in like 1997, like everyone's listening to OK Computer, and um, for me, other than like shows like 120 Minutes and your pals at high school that are pretty hip to things,
I didn't have those.
yeah, then yeah, I was kind of in the dark about that. And so thanks, Amali.
Yeah, and it was my Iron Lung that was the first single, and I did have that CD single for my Iron Lung as well. I still do. I still do have that.
Me too. It's in the archive. Yeah.
So yeah. Let's see. So actually, now I don't remember whose turn it is. Is it my
It's
turn?
you. It's you. I want to
Oh,
hear all
okay.
about this drill EP.
Yeah. So going back to the roots here, to the drill EP. Prove yourself from the drill EP. It's yeah. In the early days, they're showing their influences more, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on your first track on Yes I Am. This is another example of that. Very much the shoegazy sort of roots going on here. Uh, they don't quite sound like the Radiohead that you know, but still very interesting. And I think even when their influences are showing on their sleeves, they still sound like something different at the same time. They don't sound like imitators.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the like kind of loud guitars, you could totally name like 10 other bands that were doing the same thing at the same time,
Hmm.
but yeah, there's some secret sauce in there too.
Yeah, it's definitely a track where you're like, okay, yeah, this is from the '90s, which you don't.
Ouch.
Well, no, I mean, it's a positive. To me, it's a positive thing. Like, there's a certain kind of there's a certain kind of sound that maybe exists. Well, a certain kind of sound that I think you would say that about.
Yeah, like
You would
that
say
pavement
that's
guitar tone. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and this is this has that thing going on, that very '90s thing, but it's still it still sounds like something different as well.
Yeah, right on. That was a great pick. And the drill EP is that's their first release, is that right?
Yeah. So I don't know how much this would have preceded Pablo Honey, but it did precede Pablo Honey.
Yeah, maybe like 6 months or something. Yeah, I think drill EP initially circulated as a cassette tape, if I'm if I recall my lore correctly. Someday they're gonna like just give in and like let someone write the authorized biography about Radiohead, and that'll be a good day.
Yeah. Uh, you never know. It might never happen, but hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah, and that's another great thing. Thinking back about first listening to this band with my pals in high school, is that this band had like a ton of mystique about it. It was a really mysterious band and a weird looking front man with Tom York has one eye, which is different than the other, and in the 90s before everything was readily available, you kind of had to like trust your one friend that heard somewhere that that was a result of like this horrific car accident. It's like the myth of a lot of Radiohead tunes. So yeah, I'm really nostalgic for that level of mystery, which doesn't exist anymore, but it definitely existed for Radiohead when I was a kid. Kind of a neat tune called Molasses. Do you know this one?
Uh, y- yeah, not super well, but yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, I love it. I don't even know what to compare it to. It's in interesting guitar signature, and some of the guitar picking is maybe more borrowed from like Fairfield Country and Western, and yeah, another really loaded CD single with the Street Spirit Fade Out single. And yeah, it's really cool. You can tell that in the middle of recording the bends, they're kind of shrugging off a lot of like the guitar heroics, and they're doing the kind of crescendo of a song is not necessarily like, a loud distorted guitar. In this one, it's kind of a prefiguring guitar noodle, which I think if they were to do this later, it would be huge strings, and it's cool because you can hear that they've come a long way, and you can also kind of, knowing where they end up, you can kind of see them on that path. So yeah, pretty sophisticated uh tune if all you know them from is like, Creep.
Yeah, and yeah, that it a lot of these B-sides, you get to kind of see a different side of Radiohead. Like, I don't know that, this would have been at home on any of the albums, but it's still Radiohead and it still works really well.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of an example of that here too, Gagging Order, which is uh, just really stripped down again. Pretty much just uh, Tom York and Johnny Greenwood and an acoustic guitar and really just great acoustic playing. But yeah, about as stripped down as any Radiohead track really gets.
Yeah, wow, I haven't listened to this one for a while. So yeah, it's cool. You can hear like strings buzzing and like pick noise, and yeah, definitely like a cool spontaneous maybe like one take kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has that sound, but it is but that isn't to say that, it's rough around the edges. It's not rough around the edges in any way.
And I remember Calm Lag, 2 + 2 = 5 is the album that this is from. And yeah, I remember this being like a really fun record because you have like totally like glitchy remixes of Mixomatosis with Gagging Order and Fog again, which I think I initially encountered on the internet as Alligators in the Sewers of New York, maybe. Uh, another kind of missing charm of the old FileShare days is that like everything was named incorrectly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so good pick. Yeah, I think all the B-sides from OK Computer were gathered onto an EP, and that's
Oh,
where
okay.
I know this one from. But yeah, the whole thing is just gold, and yeah, you can really hear the different places that the band was going when they were recording OK Computer. Uh, Pearly is just such a cool kind of mood piece from that era, and that era for me, it's like they're stuck in. And if you watch the documentary, is it called How to Meet People?
Meeting people is easy.
Meeting People is easy. Um, but yeah, they're kind of like marooned in tour world, like arena tour world, where it's like, hotel show, uh, plane, hotel show, plane, and they don't really exit from that cycle for like months at a time. And a lot of these cool tunes that end up on that EP, which I can't find in their discography, uh, kind of speak to that. And so does OK Computer, and that's a interesting way to kind of think about OK Computer. But yeah, Pearly is a good, tasteful kind of rock and roll tune that samples that mood.
All right. And okay, my next track. Uh, th- Speaking of file sharing, this is one that I definitely associate with that era. Killer Cars, which is from the it was a B side to High and Dry. So uh, this was a different High and Dry single though than the other one. Uh, anyway, Killer Cars, a really good track that. Kind of surprising it didn't make the Bends, but it also shows how strong the Bends was, and it also speaks to a very real fear that I have um, about driving and the things that can happen when you get behind the wheel. And there have been times when I have put this on a compilation and not thought much about it until I was in my car listening to said compilation and and hear this song come on, and I was like, "Why did I put this on this thing?" And if if something happens to me now, I like it's not the song that you want to hear when you're driving. Don't make
Yeah,
the same
totally.
mistake.
And I think if you're any sort of sensible human being, uh, you know, you have that fear, like,
Hmm.
I don't know, daily or something.
Right.
That's why I don't drive. I love it. Uh, and the EP that was speaking of is the Airbag How Am I Driving EP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which you can find on eBay for the low price of $4.99.
Oh, there you go. Time to buy up those CDs, like any of those CDs that you never got. Um, Time to get them now because it's a buyer's market.
It certainly is, yeah, and I'm in the process of, you know, trying to figure out what do I do with my once prized, uh, 3,000 CDs, and I'm a big defender of the format. I like vinyl. I like streaming music, and I think the CD was really cool because you don't have to get up every 18 minutes to flip the record, and it sounded really good. And if your computer is downloading something in the background, like no big deal, you know.
Yeah, and it's way better than cassette tapes. Like any people, I'm sorry to get on my soapbox about this, but if you're really like spending your time and money collecting cassette tapes, right? Just come on. CDs are way better, a way better format than
I
cassette
still have
tapes.
I still have my tape deck too, but
Well, I understand having a deck, but like when you're collecting like the actual studio produced cassette tapes, I don't really get that because you can't enjoy the artwork. It's too small to enjoy. The format is not a good format. The tape gets all wrinkly and doesn't sound good. Anyway, here ends the lecture.
yeah, I think I
Just
was a little bit put off. Like if I see a cool tape that catches my eye and it's like a couple dollars or something, I'm totally gonna do that. I think the last time I did that, it was an album by The Time, and I think I put it in the deck, pressed play, and heard that like warble and about 10 seconds of music, and then it totally like ate my tape deck.
Yeah.
It happens.
No reason to try and make that come back. It doesn't need to come back in style.
Yeah, I think the only person that I know that is super into the format uh, is still in his 20s, you know? So it wasn't, it's kind of an interesting thing in the way that maybe like using actual film in a camera is kind of interesting to me.
Hmm. Yeah, nostalgia for something that you never experienced the first
Yeah,
time.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah. So, yeah, we just lost all of our tape loving demographic. So,
All the tape loving hipsters are
yeah,
turning on us now.
yeah, they're flaming the chat room. It's getting stressful. So yeah, Airbag, How Am I Driving, and Killer Cars. I think that's a good pairing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and one of the neat things about so all the tracks on my playlist are B sides. None of them were singles. Was Talk Show Host ever a single?
It was on the Street Spirit single.
Yeah, but I'm wondering that tune was written for Romeo and Juliet, or no, Street Spirit was written for Romeo and Juliet, and Talk Show Host was picked for the soundtrack. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent.
I had forgotten that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is the end credit music, if memory serves.
Yeah, because I will just so talk show host is number 7 on my list. So I'll just since we're on the subject of
Yeah,
film, I I don't I don't remember. I know I saw that movie. I don't remember it, but the intro to talk show host, what Giant Greenwood does there, like that guitar bit is it sounds very cinematic. So I don't remember how it was used in the film, but it really does seem like it was meant for being on a film score.
yeah. I think he has kind of Ennio Morricone vibe going on in his own way on that tune. Uh, definitely, definitely a hit song that uh, should show up on any compilation of just like flat out awesome tunes by Radiohead.
I agree.
Yeah, and because Radiohead were on a huge label, you know, Capital EMI from the early 90s until pretty much like the mid aughts uh after Amnesiac, I think is that their last record on a major.
I will look it up.
uh so during that time, so early 90s until like early or mid aughts is like we talked about before, like it's just a part of your job if you're a big band releasing singles to churn out a lot of b-sides. And then when they stopped doing that, and then
Hail to the Thief was the last one.
Hail to the Thief, okay. um you you kind of lose the incentive to package things that way, and the b-sides kind of drop off. So one of the last ones, the last few are really fun to hear because they've come such a long way, and they're I would present to you the amazing sounds of Orgy by on the Pyramid Song single, and the tune called "The Daily Mail," which is on the Daily Mail Staircase EP, which I think comes out at the same time as King of Limbs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Daily Mail was an almost for me. That almost made my list.
Yeah, I could see that. It's another song quite a bit like Faustarp and
Hmm.
not like Fog again. Um, you know, an interesting kind of Tom York and a piano tune.
Yeah. So my number six, I already mentioned my seven, but the number six, we had a little pre-show discussion because I wasn't really sure if I should consider this to be a deep cut. It's The Tourist from OK Computer, and when I saw Radiohead live a few years ago, they actually did this as part of the first encore. If it would have been the second encore, I would probably say no go as far as deep cut. But like two that I was actually thinking, otherwise our deep cuts were part of the encore, and like two of the songs I really love off of OK Computer, which is almost all of them anyway. But they did Let Down and The Tourists, and yeah, both of those, like, I guess as an encore should be. That was probably the highlight of the show for me were those two tracks back to back, Let Down and The Tourist. Tourist is just really cool. It sounds like they're playing it at about half speed, and it's so perfect that way. It's just there's no part of me that's just like speed it up, speed it up. It's just perfect the way it is at half speed or whatever fraction that they're playing it at.
Yeah, because it gets kind of loud at the end. It's easy to forget how slow it is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I really like that about the band. That yeah, when you see them live, they may play things that are really obscure. I remember for a long time they were playing "The Thief," which is a Can cover. Um, but yeah, then they'll surprise you with electioneering or The Tourist or something. So,
Mhm.
how many times have you seen this band?
That was the first time. It was one of those things where it took a long time because, like, one, I don't think they tour very regularly, and I think the only time that I had an opportunity during the time, like, I went to Columbus, Ohio to see them live. But the only other time I remember, seeing them come around when I was in Chicago was Lollapalooza, and I didn't really want to go to Lollapalooza. So yeah, so basically, I waited, I held out until I got to see them by themselves, and drove to Columbus in order to do that.
There you go. And have you seen them since?
No, they haven't toured since. So this would have been the last time they toured.
Oh, okay. They were doing kind of like the small arena,
Yeah,
smaller shows.
yeah, basketball arena.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we saw them on that tour. They played the Greek here in Berkeley. I'm in Oakland, but I mean, down the street in Berkeley. Um, and it was so cool because normally the people that you see at the Greek are like like the National, like Ryan Adams, bands that I kind of think of as like kind of smaller venue groups. Like they could easily play the Fillmore or something. Um, but yeah, it was so cool to a band that I've seen a number of times in like Key Arena in Seattle, where the Supersonics used to play, and giant outdoor venues like the Gorge.
Well, yeah, the
Yeah,
show I saw would have been more on the level of Key Arena.
yeah. So to see him at the Greek was super intimate, and Yeah, I'm glad you saw that round of shows. That was really fun.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I wanted to see them in the venue I did, because even though it's a basketball arena, like the sound is great. I It's the same place where I saw Quadrophenia. Both times the sound was just stellar. I just amazed that you can even see a basketball arena show anywhere where the sound is as good as this was.
Yeah, cool. Uh, yeah, I'm glad that you got to see. I think I've seen them 5 times now. So
Yeah,
officially one of those groups where I think I've kind of lost track.
yeah, they were like the number one band on my to-do list for years and years, like decades. Um, and I didn't get to do it until what, like 3 years ago. So yeah, it occasionally occasionally just things don't work out and you don't end up seeing a band until
Yeah.
luckily they stayed together long enough for me to see them live.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Thank you for that. Uh, did you want to talk about um, some of your next tracks?
All right, well, I'll just talk about the last two. Uh, so so I have polyethylene parts one and two from the Paranoid Android single. Number nine on my list, because I already talked about talk show host. Number nine on my list is Technicality, because it's not exactly a Radiohead rarity. It's a Tom York appearance on a PJ Harvey album,
Yeah, cool.
and I would say the best PJ Harvey album,
Ooh,
Stories from the City.
whoa, that's a whole other podcast, my friend.
It might be. It might be.
Yeah,
We might have to do that one. But Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea from 2000. Love that album. And it's a song that Tom York didn't really take any part in the writing of, just really sings on it. It's a PJ Harvey song all the way through, and she just, for whatever reason, thought that it was better coming out of his vocal cords, I guess. And you know, whatever the thought process was, it works. It's great. It's a great track, and a great track from a great album. And because Tom York is a member of Radiohead, I took the liberty of including it on a Radiohead compilation here.
yeah, I love it. I love that tune, and Polly and I go way back. I think I
Polly
first
Jean.
saw. Oh yeah, yeah, we're that close. I think I first saw her play in 1992 when she was touring behind Rid of Me. No, Dry. She was touring behind Dry. And yeah, this tune is really cool, and Tom York has such a unique, beautiful voice, and I think the tune is probably about PG Harvey and Nick Cave uh, breaking up. I think it's still in that era, and um, to have him as the voice in that is pretty interesting. From a lot of different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, and it sounds great. I think the demos are out now, and I think she sings on the demos. So you can compare and contrast the two, but of course, Tom York's a great vocalist, so I don't think you can really go wrong with that.
Yeah, and wow, I haven't really thought about this record for a while because so much of PJ Harvey's recent stuff is just flat out amazing. But yeah, Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea is her New York record. And the first show I saw after 9/11 was PJ Harvey and playing, a lot of the tunes from this. It was really emotional, really weird. Um, so yeah, cool pick. Love it.
Yeah, and well, and just on the side, no, I won't. I'll save it. Uh, my closer, going back to an official Radiohead track here, and an album track, another album track from In Rainbows. I double dipped on In Rainbows, and I double dipped on OK Computer. Sue me. They're great
I
albums.
just got to trust your gut. And yeah,
Yeah,
those are such good
exactly.
albums. Yeah, no judgment over here, buddy.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way to close out. The song is Videotape from In Rainbows, and
Oh yeah.
again, getting stripped down, and you know, going introing with Faustarp, and then going out with Videotape. I think it works. You get the bread in the Radiohead sandwich is just kind of this more bare bones and haunting and hypnotic quality track by them that they're great at, they're experts at. And here it's just that piano part that just hypnotic is about to is it's really the word for it.
I remember reading that there's a really interesting part about this kind of looping piano figure in Videotape that I think each of the verses is like, I don't know, like 8 repetitions, and then one of them is like 11. So anyone in the music conservatory listening right now, you can tell us what's what in the chat room.
We invite your feedback.
We invite your feedback. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah. And that's kind of it. So again, you can find those on our Spotify page, our playlists, and enjoy.
I want to talk about my last track.
Oh, okay.
Uh, have you heard this tune, Spectre?
Yes,
And do you know the backstory behind it?
I do not.
Okay. Well, apparently, the way things work in the world among adults is that when there's a new James Bond movie coming out, the producers let all the really cool artists in the world know, and they all submit a track, right?
Hmm.
So, and this was Radiohead's bid to be the opening theme song band for the James Bond um, film Spectre. So it's kind of, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit contrived and easy, but I think it's super fun that um, a bunch of guys who are probably now in their 50s comfortably, that have all known each other since they were kids, are like, let's write a James Bond theme song. And so Johnny Greenwood just goes crazy on the strings. The vocal is just totally operatic, and it's a good tune, and it's also kind of silly in a way. So I wanted to point that out because I think that for all the doom and gloom that is like legitimately in Radiohead's music, occasionally there's like some humor, and some indication that they're actually having a lot of fun.
And go out on a note of levity.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, good way to close it, and it does explain why the song is called Spectre.
It does. It does. And yeah, this has been so much fun I'm recording in the Mercury Capsule recording studio here in Oakland, California, which is a big walk-in closet. and occasionally I'll put on this Radiohead shirt that I have and be like, you know what? This shirt is like 20 years old. It's older than a lot of the people that I know. And yeah, so thanks for the fun topic, Sean.
Oh yeah, no problem. It was long overdue, as we said earlier, and hopefully it won't be terribly long before we come back around to the topic.
Right on. We're still kind of in discussion about what's happening next week. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're gonna kick that around a little bit. We'll have something for you next week, and it'll be awesome.
I think
Uh,
there's so much suspense. I can hardly wait.
but we will be here, and we'll see you next week.
That's right. You've been listening to Left of the Dial Pod, and yeah, always good to talk about music with you, Sean.
You too, and we'll do it again in a week.
See you when I see you.
See you when I see you.